Hamilton and Verstappen do not have to shout for the paddock to understand the warning. A rookie just put Mercedes on pole at Silverstone, one of the fastest, harshest, most revealing circuits in Formula One, and suddenly the entire conversation changed. Not just, how quick was Antonelli? Not just, how good was that lap? The real question became much more dangerous. What did Mercedes find? Because the source does not confirm that Hamilton or Verstappen officially reported Mercedes. It does not confirm a proven illegal trick, an FIA penalty, or verified evidence that Mercedes broke the rules. What it does confirm is the key trigger, Kimi Antonelli's pole at Silverstone, and Mercedes becoming the focus after qualifying. And that is exactly why this story is so explosive. Silverstone does not hide weakness. It exposes nervous cars, punishes tires, and reveals whether a driver truly trusts the machine underneath him. So when Antonelli puts Mercedes on pole there, every rival has to ask the same uncomfortable question. Was it talent? Was it setup? Was it tire preparation? Was it a legal breakthrough? Or was it something hidden in the Mercedes that made champions like Hamilton and Verstappen look twice? If Mercedes were illegal, the FIA could stop it. But if Mercedes found something legal, repeatable, and powerful enough to give a rookie that kind of confidence, then the rest of Formula One has a much bigger problem. They cannot report it away. They have to beat it. A rookie on pole. A Mercedes suddenly alive. Two champions connected to a storm of suspicion. And one Silverstone lap that may have revealed the first sign of Mercedes finding their way back. Subscribe to the channel. Silverstone is where this story becomes impossible to brush aside. Because if Antonelli had taken pole at a circuit that hides weakness, rivals could explain it away. They could say the track suited Mercedes. They could say the weather helped. They could say the tires landed in the perfect window for one lap, and nothing more. But Silverstone is different. Silverstone is brutally honest. It is fast enough to punish hesitation. Demanding enough to expose balance problems. Long enough through the corners to show whether a car is truly stable, or just pretending for a few seconds. That is why Antonelli's pole carried so much weight. Not because one lap proves Mercedes are back. Not because one lap proves an illegal trick. But because one lap at Silverstone can reveal something deeper than a normal qualifying result. A Formula One driver needs trust there. He needs to trust the front of the car when he turns in. He needs to trust the rear when the speed is high. He needs to trust the tires when the load builds corner after corner. And most of all, he needs to trust that the car will answer the same way twice. If that trust is missing, the lap does not collapse all at once. It bleeds away. A tiny lift. A cautious throttle. A small correction. A line that becomes safer than it should be. And at Silverstone, those tiny losses become the difference between pole and disappointment. That is why rival drivers would notice. Hamilton would understand the feeling immediately. He knows what a confident Mercedes feels like. He knows the difference between a car that invites the driver to attack, and a car that forces the driver to negotiate every corner. Verstappen would understand it too. He knows when a rival car starts becoming a real threat. He knows that dominance does not begin with a trophy. It begins with a machine that gives clear answers, and a driver who starts trusting those answers. So when a rookie puts Mercedes on pole at Silverstone, the question changes. It is no longer only, how good is Antonelli? It becomes, what did the car give him? That is the uncomfortable part. Because a veteran can sometimes hide a difficult car. Experience becomes a shield. A champion can feel a slide before it fully arrives. He can save a lap before most people even realize it was in danger. But a rookie reveals the car more honestly. If the balance is nervous, you see hesitation. If the tires are not ready, you see the lap become untidy. If the rear does not feel safe, the driver cannot fully commit. So Antonelli's pole said two things at once. It said he has serious speed. And it suggested Mercedes may have given him a car that allowed that speed to appear under pressure. That is what makes the illegal trick narrative so powerful. Because when a car suddenly looks calmer, sharper, and more alive than expected, the paddock starts searching for a reason. Fans want a secret. Rivals want data. Drivers want to know whether the answer is talent, setup, tires, or something much deeper. But the source does not confirm that Hamilton or Verstappen officially reported Mercedes. It does not confirm a proven illegal device, an FIA penalty, or verified evidence that Mercedes broke the rules. It confirms the key trigger, Antonelli's pole at Silverstone, and Mercedes becoming the focus after qualifying. That distinction matters. Because Formula One stories can move faster than the evidence behind them. One lap becomes a rumor. One rumor becomes a theory. One theory becomes a headline. And before anyone has a final answer, the whole paddock is already watching the car differently. That is how pressure begins. Inside rival garages, nobody waits for public opinion to settle. Engineers go straight to the details. Where did the Mercedes gain time? Did it look stronger in the high-speed sections? Did it protect the tires better? Did Antonelli have to fight the car, or did the car seem to work with him? That last question is everything. Because Formula One cars are not fast only because they have performance. They are fast when the driver can use that performance. A car can have downforce, but if the downforce feels unpredictable, the driver holds back. A car can have grip, but if that grip disappears without warning, the lap becomes cautious. A car can be quick on paper, but if it makes the driver nervous, the stopwatch never sees its full potential. So the real question after Antonelli's pole is not simply, how fast was Mercedes? It is, how usable was the speed? Usable speed is the hidden weapon. It means the driver can attack without guessing. It means the car gives clear answers. It means the tires arrive when needed. It means confidence becomes lap time instead of just emotion. And if Mercedes found more usable speed at Silverstone, the paddock reaction makes sense. Not because it proves an illegal trick. Because it suggests Mercedes may have found direction. Direction is one of the most powerful things in Formula One. A team with direction can build. It can test with purpose. It can bring updates that connect to a bigger idea. It can take one strong weekend and ask the only question that matters. How do we make this happen again? A team without direction is trapped. It may be fast one day and confused the next. It may celebrate qualifying, then lose the thread in the race. It may fix one problem and create another. It may keep chasing answers without ever knowing which answer is real. That uncertainty has been the shadow around Mercedes. Can they make the car work consistently? Can they stop relying on narrow windows? Can they give their drivers a machine they can trust, instead of a car they have to constantly manage? Antonelli's pole did not solve every question, but it created a clue. And in Formula One, a clue is enough to make rivals nervous. Because Mercedes are not a team that ignores clues. If they find something real, they chase it. They test it. They build around it. They bring it back to the factory and ask whether it can become the foundation for the next race, the next upgrade, the next phase of the season. That is what Hamilton and Verstappen would understand instantly. Hamilton understands the history of Mercedes. He knows how powerful that team becomes when belief returns. He knows that when the car starts making sense, the garage changes. The feedback sharpens. The development becomes cleaner. The team stops sounding uncertain. Verstappen understands the threat from the other side. He knows that a recovering Mercedes is not just another car on the timing screen. It is another qualifying threat, another strategy problem, another machine that can take points, split races, and force everyone else to react. That is why both names carry such weight in this story. They represent two different forms of knowledge. Hamilton knows what Mercedes can be from the inside. Verstappen knows what a new front-running threat can do from the outside. And if Antonelli's Silverstone pole made both worlds look twice, then the lap becomes bigger than one result. It becomes a warning. Because a young driver gaining confidence inside an improving Mercedes is not a small storyline. It is the kind of combination that can grow quickly. A rookie with speed is exciting. A rookie with speed, confidence, and a car that starts to make sense is dangerous. That is the version rivals do not want to face. Because then the question is no longer whether Antonelli can produce one perfect lap. The question becomes whether Mercedes can turn that lap into a pattern. And patterns change Formula One. Not single moments. Patterns. The same car looking stable again. The same driver trusting it again. The same team finding time in the same kinds of corners again. The same rivals asking the same uncomfortable questions again. That is how suspicion changes shape. At first, people call it luck. Then they call it track-specific. Then they say conditions helped. Then it happens again, and the excuses start to sound weaker. That is what every rival fears after Silverstone. Not that Mercedes have already proven everything, but that they may have found the first real step. And the first real step is often the hardest one. Once a team knows where to go, everything changes. Driver feedback becomes more valuable. The factory becomes more focused. Upgrades stop feeling random. The whole operation begins building from a foundation instead of chasing problems in circles. That is why the illegal trick headline is so tempting. It offers a simple villain, a simple accusation, a simple solution. But the deeper truth may be far more uncomfortable. Maybe Mercedes did not need an illegal trick. Maybe they found a legal way to make the car work better. Maybe they found a setup direction that gave Antonelli trust. Maybe they found a tire preparation method that brought the lap alive at exactly the right moment. Maybe they found the first piece of a new identity. And if that is true, then rivals cannot solve it with anger. They have to solve it with performance. That is the difference. A scandal can be investigated. A breakthrough has to be chased. And if Silverstone was the beginning of a Mercedes breakthrough, then Hamilton, Verstappen, and the rest of the grid know exactly what comes next. Every Mercedes lap gets studied. Every Antonelli result gets measured differently. Every strong session becomes part of a bigger question. Is this still a surprise? Or is this becoming real? That is why this first block matters so much. It is not about declaring Mercedes guilty. The source does not support that. It is about understanding why Antonelli's pole created such an explosive reaction in the first place. A rookie at Silverstone. A Mercedes suddenly looking alive. Two champions connected to a story of suspicion and pressure. A paddock searching for the answer before the next race makes the question even bigger. And somewhere behind all of it, the same fear keeps growing. What if Mercedes have not been caught doing something wrong? What if they have finally started doing something right? But then comes the part that makes rival drivers truly uncomfortable. Because anger in Formula One is rarely just anger. It is usually a warning signal. A driver does not become frustrated simply because another car is fast. Champions expect speed. Hamilton and Verstappen have spent their careers fighting cars that were quick, aggressive, and difficult to beat. What creates real tension is something different. It is when the speed does not make sense yet. That is where Mercedes become dangerous. If Antonelli's pole had an obvious explanation, the paddock could move on. If Mercedes were only fast on the straights, rivals would know where the time came from. If the weather created one perfect moment, teams could call it temporary. If the tires simply landed in the right window for one lap, the story would still be impressive, but easier to contain. But Silverstone made the explanation harder. Because the performance was not only about being quick. It was about the way the car may have allowed Antonelli to be quick. That difference matters. A fast car can still look difficult. It can slide. It can snap. It can force the driver to make corrections. It can give lap time in one corner and take confidence away in the next. But a car that gives usable speed looks different. It looks calmer, cleaner, more connected. And when a rookie finds that feeling at Silverstone, the biggest drivers on the grid understand what it could mean. Hamilton would know the danger immediately. Because he knows Mercedes from the inside of its greatest era. He knows that when this team finds a car it understands, the whole organization changes. The garage becomes sharper. The feedback becomes clearer. The factory starts building with more confidence. The team does not need chaos, drama, or luck. It becomes methodical. And a methodical Mercedes is one of the most dangerous things Formula One has ever seen. Verstappen would know the danger from the other side. He understands what happens when a rival gains confidence. A team that was once only a threat on certain weekends suddenly becomes part of every strategy meeting. A car that could be ignored in some race calculations now has to be covered. A driver who was treated as a future problem becomes a present one. That is why the emotional temperature rises so quickly. Not because the source confirms Hamilton and Verstappen officially reported Mercedes. It does not. Not because the source confirms a proven illegal trick. It does not. But because Antonelli's pole creates the exact kind of performance question that champions take seriously. What if Mercedes have found a repeatable answer? That word is the whole fear. Repeatable. One lap can be luck. One pole can be timing. One perfect session can be conditions. But repeatable performance becomes a threat that changes how every rival behaves. And this is where the illegal trick narrative becomes both powerful and dangerous. It gives people a simple explanation for something complicated. It says Mercedes must have hidden something, because the alternative is harder to accept. The alternative is that Mercedes may have found a legal way to make the car work better. A better setup direction. A better tire preparation approach. A more stable balance. A car that gives Antonelli confidence at the exact point where young drivers usually hesitate. That possibility is not as easy to shout about. But it is far more threatening. Because if something is illegal, it can be challenged. It can be measured. It can be removed. If something is legal, rivals have to beat it. And beating it is much harder. That is why rival teams would start looking beyond the headline. They would not only ask whether Mercedes had a trick. They would ask what kind of trick would even matter at Silverstone.